Welcome to the Wellness Esquire Podcast. I'm Ariella, and I'm so glad you're here for what I think is a really important conversation with Randy Kremer. Randy is an international trade and customs attorney based in Montreal. He spent the first 2 decades of his career as a litigator before making the bold decision to go out on his own, doing work he had never done before. I first connected with Randy after seeing his birthday post on LinkedIn, where he shared about things that I think we need to talk about a lot more in life in general, and certainly in the legal industry. In this conversation, Randy and I, of course, talk about things like perfectionism and burnout. And we also talk about Randy's personal life, his wife's stage 4 colon cancer diagnosis, his depression, and his reality of managing his own mental health while supporting his wife and his family of 5 kids through a serious health diagnosis, all while building up a solo law practice. Most of us have something going on that others don't know about. We have current pains and challenges or ones from our past that may still live with us. We often feel like we're not supposed to say this stuff out loud. We're often worried about the potential impact on our careers. But what I've found is that people want to hear these stories because it helps them feel less alone. And what I've also seen is that when we show up authentically and talk about the tough stuff that we thought might lead to career suicide, it can actually open up lots of doors we never expected. I'm incredibly grateful to Randy for sharing his story. I know you're going to get a lot out of it. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy. Thank you so much for doing this with me. When I saw your birthday post, I just thought, oh, we have to have a conversation. What
Right.
he's feeling. And so we're going to get into your more personal story of what you posted about your own experience with depression and your wife's diagnosis and what your family's been through. Before we get into that, I want to just start with maybe simpler things, more directly oriented around your career. Like, why did you go to law school in the first place?
I went to law school in the first place. I wanted to become a litigator, and I did for about 20 years. And I decided that I don't want to do that anymore. Uh, I was a litigator, civil litigator, personal injury litigator for, well, not quite 20 years, but a little bit less than that. And decided at some point in time, which corresponded relatively well with us leaving Toronto in 2018, that I didn't want to be a litigator anymore. I certainly didn't want to be a personal injury litigator anymore, and want to be more of a transactional, international attorney.
What made you realize it wasn't the right fit for you anymore? Or was it ever the right fit for you?
When I was really in it, it felt like the right fit. I was so passionate about it. I went all out for my clients. I was the type of guy who was there late all the time, and would be the type of guy who would, as a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer, would resist. And then that's what you want as a plaintiff's lawyer, to resist, to try to get as best a settlement
Randy,
as you can. So
can you
when we'd
see
go to
me?
trial, we'd fail the mediation if the money wasn't good enough, and I was very good holding out on that. But somehow, at some point in time, I decided I'd had enough of it. But actually, I went out on my own first doing that before deciding I've had enough of it. I kind of went out on my own knowing that I didn't want to continue doing personal injury law, but that only became quite evident once I was out on my own doing personal injury law. So I definitely don't want to do this anymore. No, that was that.
Before we continue, I'm going to suggest that you scooch over, I think, there we go. So that you're
Okay.
over. And then, because you're, I think, partially cut off.
Oh, that's not good.
I
I
mean, I
thought,
can see your face.
okay, good.
Scooch over, okay, I think that's good.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for my friend and producer to say, why didn't you tell him to change where he was sitting?
Yeah, that was a good idea.
It's generally not on my radar, and I'm trying to make it become something on my radar. Okay, so you realized the litigation route, it wasn't a good fit for you. Have you done any work in what you now do in the world of international law? Had you explored that before, or what made you go, I think this will be a better route for me?
I think we're having trouble with the connection.
Uh-oh, I think you're frozen.
We're having trouble with the connection, I believe.
Yeah, I was just sending you I'm trying to figure out how to send you a message that you were frozen.
Yep, you're also frozen. So
I was okay. Do you know if it's on your end or my end?
let me take a look at how I'm connected here. I'm connected to my best network. So
yeah, I'm quite good on my end. I wonder what's happening. Okay, should we do a competition? I'm at 34.
okay. Oh, you know what your speed is.
Yeah. Do you know how to the fast.com?
I used to know. Okay, fast.com, yes.
And that way, at least we can see, do I need to try to find somewhere better or...
Ends up at, it's in the 700s.
Oh, so it's probably me.
I would think, but you never know with the things. Yeah, I'm in the 700s. I was 710 was the final megabytes per second.
Huh. That's so odd. Okay. Well, then I think I'm inclined to think it's me then. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to do anything about that. So unfortunately, I don't want to keep having us lose each other. So I think the best thing to do is to reschedule.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you want to keep trying to go and see what happens, and if maybe right now as we're talking about how it's not working, it's working.
Right now it's working. That's right.
I know.
We could keep going, but if it keeps cutting out, then I guess we'll have to.
Yeah, it's entirely up to you. I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, that was such a challenging hour.
No, I'm okay with continuing. We'll see what happens.
Great. Let's give it a whirl.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. Okay, so I think where we left off was I was asking, had you done any work in the international law realm before? What led you go in that direction when you realized?
I had done work in that realm before, mostly international contracts. But what I do now is international trade and customs, transportation, logistics, and maritime law, which is different than that. So it's been quite the challenge to make that jump, and especially doing it as a solo, at least for now, very difficult. Have had to rely heavily on mentors, other people, other lawyers, attending conferences, lots of work. It hasn't been easy. I don't take the easy route, that's for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, here. Go ahead. You go.
Okay. I want to dig in more to the way it's been challenging and how you've navigated that, because I have so many law students and lawyers at various stages coming to me and saying, well, what if I choose something and then I don't like it? What do I do then? How do I end up, like, what happens if I'm trained in something and then I hate it? And my answer has been, well, then you do something else, which, is maybe comforting, but I don't know if it always is, because it's like, well, but how do you proceed? It can seem so scary. But we can do hard, scary things. So what's it been like for you to do the hard, maybe scary thing?
Well, I can inherently, I guess, daring and take chances, whereas some others would not take these chances, going out on my own after having been in law for close to 21 years now. Well, I went out on my own about a little over 10 years ago. That wasn't the problem. It's going off in a different area completely. That I would not recommend that. I would recommend that somebody go work for another firm or work in-house to get the experience that they need to thrive in that area or areas that they want to practice in, because doing it on your own is extremely, extremely challenging.
Do you now, somewhat regret having gone that route? Or do you feel like, yeah, you've actually made it work pretty well and it's been really hard, but you're not sure a lot of other people would be good out for it?
Yeah, I don't regret having left personal injury, uh, but um, there are days that I say I should have gone to work for a firm, or I should have gone to work in house uh, before I put a shingle on it that I'm doing it on my own. Put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, that makes me want to talk a little bit about mistakes because I have to assume you've made some because we all
Yeah.
have. And I have actually found since I launched my own firm that I've become much more confident um, in acknowledging my own mistakes and just quickly and confidently resolving them. I'm not sure exactly what that's all about, but I once it was all on me, I just felt like, oh, and now I can own my own process for saying, whoops, that didn't go well, and here I'm going to fix it. Can you think of experiences where you've made a mistake either on more of the admin side and you realize, oh, I'm not going to do that, the client maybe was happy but I didn't like how I did that for myself, or client side mistakes where you realized, oh wow, I didn't know how to do that well enough and I wish I had done XYZ to understand better, and now I know. But
I
mistakes are
think most of the mistakes I think about are mistakes where I gave the client too much time, did things for free for a long time, and learned from that. I think that when I do something, I make sure that I'm doing it right. I know it's sometimes very difficult to ensure that you're doing it 100% correctly, and that contributes to perfectionism, which brings you down because if you're always searching for 100%, you are inevitably brought down by being a perfectionist. I think I read a bit about you that you struggle with that, or being a perfectionist, if I'm not mistaken. I definitely struggle with that. And so I've learned that it maybe 98% or 97% is better than 100%, because the 2-3% more to get to 100% is absolutely so exhausting, and really not worth it for quality of life purposes. I don't think. But mistakes would be number one, not working for a firm or in house, and I think giving too much of myself to clients. I've become much better at weeding out something that's not going to work out very quickly, as opposed to in the past, whereas you give a lot of your time and then you realize, hey, this isn't going to work out, and client's taking advantage of me, client doesn't want to pay, things like that.
How do you think about weeding out clients now? I remember coming across someone on a podcast talking about like she really pays attention to uh, how can her firm best attract the right clients and repel the wrong clients, and I just thought that was brilliant. How do
Yeah,
you
it is. I think that's a great thing. It's a hard thing to do. I think you have to position yourself as a premium uh, law firm, to help weed that out, so that people know off the bat, not that necessarily you're expensive, but that you hold yourself in high regard, and that it's not going to be easy to come and just get free advice. You could tell it's coming like a mile away sometimes, where people want the free advice, and you just know it, and you don't know where the if it's almost nothing, you're inclined to give it. But what if they rely on you and form a relationship, and you end up being wrong, or you end up being right, and they think that you've been their lawyer all the time. Uh, that's difficult. So I like to set things out clear at the beginning with retainer agreement and all that. Whereas in the past, I would be more loosey goosey about it, and I guess be fortunate for the client. Now I realize that having a bad client is much worse than having no client. Uh, so I act accordingly.
yeah One thing I loved about your website where you talked about, your kind of what I view as your love for the international law space, that general space, is the recognition of just people and cultures and
Right.
understanding their differences. And I loved that personalization and the recognition of, you're not just talking about, how do you get items from one country over to the border to another country. You're looking to understand, sure, the business and the legal sides of things, but also to understand like what goes into all of this stuff. And then how, to me, I'm reading it as, how do you best understand your clients and the cultures they may be coming from or interacting with, so that you can actually then get the results people are looking for. Um,
Yep.
how do you think about that and navigate that?
Well, it's very important in terms of business deals to understand the way other people think and the way they do things. If you're going to uh, other cultures and you do things that they could possibly find offensive, you have to be really careful about that. I think that dates back to my days in personal injury, where I had people from all sorts of different cultures, and you learn a lot about what they do. Sometimes you go visit them at home and see the way they live, and so just international kind of born in the U.S., went to school in Canada, never went to university in the United States or college in the United States. I went there just as a student, and was going to come back, and almost broke up with my future wife. Basically, it's like, that's it, I'm leaving. I'll see you later. And uh, I'm going back to New York, and then we ended up falling in love somehow, and she kept me in Canada for the long run. But I've always been attracted by international things, different things, and that's what that plus appreciation of other people, other cultures, really acquired during the personal injury times. Um, just made me want to go out and do that at a level that I felt was a higher level, which is at a business level. Um, Knowing those things and appreciating those things, people still appreciate when you know about their culture and you can say a few words in their language. Um, Even if you can't have a conversation, you can just show that you're contributing and that you care. It makes the world a difference.
Did
And
that,
to get the people to trust you, it's important.
yeah, did that contribute to your interest in becoming fluent in French? Was that just your own pure desire, or was it also, well, maybe this will help my clients?
Well, the French thing comes from when I realized that I wanted to stay in Montreal. It was only then that I realized that I had to learn French, to really master French, to be able to stay in Montreal, to be able to be a lawyer in Montreal, because that's what I wanted to do initially. I wanted to stay in the same place as my wife's family, because my wife is particularly close to her family. It's not that I'm not close with my family. I just think that my wife might have a more special bond with her family. Talks to them, especially with her mother, all the time. Really a huge part of her life, and so that's what I wanted to do initially. When I made that decision, I had already been here in Montreal for a number of years, not learning French, trying or took a course, but it was like a complete joke, like high school Spanish was for me. It was a complete joke. There was no effort whatsoever that went into it, and uh, I started to take it very seriously after a while, because I realized I couldn't provide services in French, and that was a problem. Plus, I found myself at what we have here called bar school, which uh, is really intimidating, because it's after law school, and you go there for 8 months, and the books are all in French, and the lectures are all in French, and I couldn't even have a conversation with anybody when I first came to bar school. It's like, um, thank goodness that the exams were both in English and French, although French was the official language and the ruling language, because I wouldn't have been able to have gotten through it if it were not for the fact that the exams were also in English. But at that time, I had all my French was from reading books, and my legal French was better than my French to speak to somebody in a normal conversation. Couldn't go out and have a drink with somebody and talk to them that wasn't capable, but I could understand like legal passages in French, and it was the weirdest thing. And my wife is not francophone; she's anglophone. She is from an anglophone Jewish part of Montreal, where I think they still speak like 80-something% speaks English as their first language, and so she went to Jewish school at the beginning, and then continued on in university in English, and never really helped me with the French. So I had to get it from outside the house. And now, as it turns out, she ends up learning from me. She likes to say that I'm her teacher, which is the weirdest thing. Hello, we introduce ourselves to people, and I'm from New York, and I'm having the conversation in French that sounds good, and she's the one who's having the more broken conversation, and she's the one from Montreal, and introduce her, and then they're like, "What? That's the weirdest thing," but that's the way it ended up.
It's a good pairing. Okay, so we've mentioned your wife a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
How is she? And do you want to share what your family's been going through?
Well, she's doing okay for the moment, which I tend to look at things a little bit more pessimistically than some others. She's doing okay for the moment, meaning that last scan was okay, and we wanted to capitalize on that to go away and have a long family vacation while she was still doing well, because the past couple of years we've missed out on the family holiday vacations because she was not doing well and she had to go to chemo, I think 2 years in a row, and so we wanted to specifically make it our business. So we had our kids miss maybe 7 days of school. They had 1 week off, but they missed a good 7 days of school so that we can have that 17-day vacation go on. So she's happy. She's doing so much to try to connect on social media. I admire her so much for she makes songs for people. She writes poems. She's in all these cancer groups. She's trying to do what she can. She's trying to live as much as she possibly can, and I really appreciate that. I wish I had that attitude, because I'm more on the fearful side and tend to get depressed, and she's just out there living and creating more moments with me and our children to remember, and laughs, and the vacation was fabulous. It just highlighted all that. I think it's one of the reasons, where it's like I was actually having some kidney stones, and I still do. I was causing some pain that's under control in the medication, but just I feel better talking to you after the vacation than before, because the vacation had been so long time in the making, and really wanted to do that for the family and for her.
And your wife has stage 4, what kind of
colon cancer. Right, that's limited to the lung at this point, thank goodness, which is a better situation than being whatever they call it, distributed. It's limited to the lung, and so she's had chemotherapy and she's had some radiation in the lung as well. But you fear that at any moment it could become more widespread. So she's been lucky. It's been just concentrated in the lung. The colon cancer, it's not in the colon anymore. It's only in the lung, and so she's doing what she can, and she had some radiation, and the scan looked pretty good, so we went away.
I wanted to have you on to talk about that because you also, so just to backtrack a little, I think when I came across you, it was because of a post you had published on your birthday
Yeah,
in a nutshell, recognizing what you and your family have been going through, in particular with your wife's health and with
yeah,
your depression, um, which, you know, you've struggled to, sometimes it sounds like, get out of bed and do the things that you need to do, and then you have this wife
yes,
who's has a different mindset around living through this same tragedy. And when I saw your post, I had, my initial instinct is, oh, we need to talk about this. And then I had this other part of me that sort of thought, well, what a strange thing to bring someone onto a podcast to talk about something so painful. But to me, that's also why we need to do it, because as unique as these tragedies are for us personally, so many of us go through something like this and then feel alone and don't know how to navigate it.
that's right.
Um, and to be frank, this was probably the first episode that I have felt a little bit nervous to go into recording, because
Really?
because my dad died from colon cancer when I
Oh,
was 17. So I didn't know yet that it was colon with your wife, but so it's very personal to me. And my goal is not to make it about me, but because of my own personal experience, I
mm-hmm.
know how important it is to talk about it, and to also just to have it out in the open so people know what's going on with their colleagues and their friends and their family, and also with us in our industry, to just be able to talk about, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on at home. I'm actually not okay. That doesn't mean I
Right.
can't do my job, and it doesn't mean I can't excel at my job, but it does mean that I might now look at life differently, and I prioritize things differently, and my focus on the way I want to live and work may shift. Um,
It's been
and
tremendously difficult in that regard, especially with launching a new focus. She's been diagnosed now for, I think, 2 years and 3 months. And that just coincided with me just getting out there and uh, kind of putting up my new shingle in these new areas, and it's been remarkably difficult because uh, especially at the beginning, and even as recently as these past few days, just having returned from California triggered the depression, which was unexpected. And I did post about that on LinkedIn, saying that I was feeling depressed. I didn't talk about my wife's situation in particular on that, but just having uh, getting these scan results and seeing that a nodule has been added or expanded or uh, had threw me into periods of weeks, months long depression. I have to say, I didn't want to deal with anybody, or I didn't want to do it, and I was crying about it. And I have to admit, to the point where we had to get my children involved, or my older children, to try to help with it, because what can I say? My wife is my best friend, and never would I have thought that this would happen to her. Her grandmother lived to be 99, and her mother is, I think, 77, and in good health, as far as I know. And I thought my wife would easily outlive me. It just never. I always kind of took that for granted. And then uh, December of 2023, I think was the first day of December. She had been having some stomach problems, and then went to the hospital and revealed it was a blockage in the intestine that had to be taken out immediately because it was colon cancer. And then they found some what they call spots on the lung, which is the spread of it to the lungs, where it's remained. So it's been extremely difficult, and um, my wife has been difficult on me. She doesn't accept that I'm depressed, and it's been extremely difficult, especially even these past few days coming back from, like, I know there's a reason why I'm depressed. This has something to do with the fact that I wanted to go to California, and I enjoyed it there and saw the opportunity there, and how nice it is, and how everyone was so happy there in the family. And I come back here and deal with the bitter cold and all that stuff, and it's no coincidence. There's something going on there. But this is the first time, though, that I got depressed, in not specifically in relation to my wife's illness, since she was diagnosed, which I find to be interesting in itself. Like, why am I getting depressed when she's doing the best she's done, but yet I'm markedly depressed. I can't explain it, uh, other than the way I tried to explain it on LinkedIn, which was, hey, I did want to do this, and it didn't work out, and I fought all the time for my kids to go to French school and for me to learn French and all that. And at the end of the day, I'm saying to myself, was it really worth it? But on the flip side, being close to my wife's parents and other immediate family has been priceless in these times of of illness. Because if we weren't around them, what would have happened? And for my wife and children and me, not to be around them, it's there's a trade-off there.
You mentioned, getting your kids involved to help you with the depression, at least to a certain extent. What are the tools that you're using, and anything that you're doing to help yourself, all the time in this, in the last 2 years in particular, and especially now, as you have the awareness that you're not doing well. So
Well,
what
I
do
see a therapist, it goes without saying. And uh, therapist is is there really to try to help me continue to work in a stable fashion without going through these depressions. And so, yesterday I had my first session back with her since I since we had left, and I actually our our vacation got extended for a couple of days because of bad weather on the East Coast. It really wasn't that bad weather. It's just it enabled us to extend the vacation essentially, so without charge. The flight ended up leaving on time and everything was fine, but uh, I had called her on Monday, and I had just had a video conference with somebody in the business, and that I had set up, and it went well, and I was all confident it was great. I spoke to her on the phone Monday, not yesterday, the week before. I was so confident, but then I come back and I had to tell her that I'd been basically not doing much for the last 5 days. I didn't want to touch LinkedIn. I finally posted on LinkedIn. I didn't want to touch it, didn't want to post on it, didn't want to read it, didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it was kind of like, wow, what a change in 1 week that comes, because I guess also, let's face it, being away, in a different place doesn't make you think too much of your wife's illness. And then when you come back to that place, and the first thing you see is a piece of paper saying that the next scan is scheduled for April 10th, um, which happens to be my oldest daughter's birthday, and it's in the same hospital because my oldest daughter was born in Montreal. It's like it's not just that I'm away from California. It's being back in that 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 environment again, where you've got the scan coming up again, and you're in the place where all this stuff has happened. Sometimes in life you just want to get away from places that have caused you pain.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking about you and losing your father to at when you were 17. My middle daughter is 17, and I would say that she's the most mature of my children in general. I have older children and I have younger children, but she's the one who who's always trying to help me get over these difficult points. And I'm wondering, what it's like to lose a parent at the age of 17. I lost my aunt to lung cancer at the age of 17, actually, but it's different than losing a parent. And the saddest thing, she had lung cancer, and so we knew what was going to happen with her. But a month before her death, her husband had a heart attack and passed away.
Ugh.
And at the funeral, it was just you hearing her. She was crying about it, and how could they take away my husband? I knew for me, but my husband. That happened all when I was 17. But your mother, it's just they're so close to their mother. On this vacation, it was just the three younger ones, so including the 17-year-old. The other two did not join us. I can't fathom it. I have my parents still living in their 80s now. If something were to happen to them, I guess I'd be much more prepared, but not at that age. So I feel for what you've gone through, and my kids, what they could go through. My youngest one is 11, so he doesn't really. We don't really talk about too much of this with him. He's kind of too young, and I have a 14-year-old who knows more about it, and he writes songs and sings songs and fills everybody's life with joy, and that's so nice. But yeah, it's extremely tough. People don't know, and then you gotta get a little bit of the phenomenon of cancer ghosting a little bit with people that had been close to my wife. People, it's not necessarily that they don't want to deal with it. It's just they don't know how, and give them the benefit of the doubt. There, people they just don't know how to deal with tragedy or things that could lead to tragedy, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was actually one of the things that I wanted to dig into, which was, I think so often people do want to help, whether it's friends or family or colleagues, but people are often so ill-equipped to do so,
Yeah.
and so they just disappear, do nothing. It seems like they've forgotten about it, and you are never going to have the same life again. And
Right.
today is, somewhere in your mind, whether it's like closer to the back of your mind, if you're able to be super distracted, or somewhere much closer to the front. And you're in this world of, how do people not know that my life is not okay? And that
Right.
it's not okay. And they really you'll figure out a new normal, but things will never just be good again. And yet everyone else is going around like, it's a normal day and everything's fine. And,
Yep.
and it's really tough.
Well, I guess we don't know their stories either and what they've gone through. Everybody goes through things a different way, and but anytime I hear about somebody's gone through situations like this, it hits home harder now than it used to, because I know that it's so complex. It's not just one thing that it bothers them for one day. It just continues on, and sometimes I wonder whether and I hate to say this because it sounds so negative, but if something were to happen and you had an immediate death, or would you choose an immediate death or a long drawn out one? I still don't have the answer to that question. I've got to say, at this point, I would choose the long drawn out one, because at least you get the time, and you know what's coming, and you get to express your love and spend time, whereas you would not have been able to in the other way. So I guess it's pretty clear.
Yeah, but I think what you're referencing with I think what you called it was cancer ghosting, reminds me of something my mom told us, one of my dad's nurses said at Sloan, which was that you can tell sometimes by walking into someone's hospital room how long they've been sick. Because when it's a new diagnosis, the room is filled with cards and flowers and things like that. And the longer someone's been sick, the more it just becomes part of normalcy. And we go home, and as you said, you see the slip on the counter that says the next scan is April 10th. And for me, sometimes depending on what treatment my dad was going through, it was the spots on his face, or the weight loss, or something changing about his body, and other things, or my mom on the phone with the insurance companies fighting every day. There are all these things that we see in our environments, but everyone else, it's just yeah, they were diagnosed a number of years ago, and yes, they're living with it. And it does feel like people forget. So I wonder, from you, are there things that people have done for you that have made you feel like, oh, this group of friends or colleagues or whoever, family, help me know that we're like they're in it with us? And maybe advice for other people who are colleagues who are looking for, I know I should do something, but I have no idea. And I think sometimes it's, I don't want to say something stupid, so then they just don't say anything at all, and we're on the other side being like, can someone just say something kind?
Well, I don't want to go into the specific details of it, but I will say that during this time, the Jewish community has stepped up for us in a way that we're extremely thankful for. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I do identify with my Judaism and ethnicity and culture, and very much so, and I'm proud of that. I also remember that in 2021, I was in England. I was actually there to take the bar exam, and it was during the COVID time, and I had to be there 2 weeks in advance, and to then go out to be able to go somewhere. So I had to be in quarantine for 2 weeks before you went out. But in any event, turns out I got COVID, and I was not able to take the bar exam, and it was very bad COVID. It was the point where I couldn't function at all, and I got thrown out of 2 hotels because at one point my wife called the emergency, and when they came to the emergency and found out that it was COVID related, like, I didn't deny I had COVID. They didn't ask me when I came in, but my wife called the emergency, and they all came in, and then they asked me to leave the hotel, and it was only then that my wife and my wife's father, who was always so helpful to everybody, got in touch with his connections and found a connection with a rabbi in Leeds, England, because that's where I was. I was in Leeds, England, and this rabbi got me to stay somewhere where I was also thrown out, because I think the rabbi may have not indicated that I had COVID, but I ended up being thrown. So that was the second place I was thrown out of. But eventually, I went to this place in Manchester, England. I was taken there. I took a taxi from Leeds to Manchester, and I don't know if you're familiar with there's quite a big Jewish presence in Manchester, England. In fact, it was I ended up staying in this very religious hotel with somebody who knew I had COVID and was like almost like my grandmother, ensuring that I had chicken soup and everything was good. And I think that was only a couple of blocks away from where there was a shooting in Manchester this past fall. And so I happen to know the area very well because I had spent it in that area, and eventually I got to a point where I was able to go out and walk around and everything, and so it was. I just the Jewish community has stepped up, and I know that you'd appreciate hearing that very much. Those are the people that I identify as having stepped up the most, and our family is so appreciative of that.
Well, that's good to hear, and I'm glad you do have support systems. How has what your family's been going through impacted the way you think about your career and the way you plan your days? I remember seeing you posted about, there was a time in your life and in building your career where you would work from, I think you said, straight from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yep.
And
there was.
There may be some value to that, you noted, and in terms of sort of building the muscle, but like, boy, is that not sustainable, and there's so many reasons that's not a good idea to do in the long term. So from that point in your career up until now, especially with what your family has going on, and maybe your shift in the values that you think about with how you spend your time and your energy, but so how do you now think about your schedule and the time you put into your client work and your business development, and then your family time, and you're taking care of your personal health and living?
Well, I'm trying to use the business time as a time away, time an escape to try to just say you just have to do this, and this is a time for escape, and because I can't really function any other way. I think one of the things that I'm afraid of, the more things go well with business, is that I'm going to be in a situation where my wife is not doing well, and I'm so busy, and I can't make that decision to not be with her during that time, because if it was like it used to be where I was working all the time, I would always make the decision to work late and not come home, not spend time. I would come home but not spend time with her, because I'd have to get up early the next morning, and I and she is fearful that will happen again, because it's happened, and I reflect on it and said I shouldn't have done that. That doesn't mean it can't happen again, because I think I've shown that I do have a tendency to fall into the negative behavior, or the undesirable, the depressive behavior, or the undesirable behavior in general, and I can't let that happen where that takes precedence over my wife's health and what my family needs. So I just simply can't do it. I'll have to say no to that client, or say no to that particular mandate, rather than, it's one of the things about working for yourself that you can, whereas working for somebody else, I always felt that I could not say no ever. It was one of the things I think that drove me out of the firm I was working for in personal injury. It's just I used to say yes to everything, and that was on me. I had the weakness there where I would say yes to everything, the most difficult client, most demanding client, and I was so good at bringing them, at calming them down. This is one of the things that surprised me, that I was good at calming them down, but boy, were they pretty aggressive for a case that had very little value. at the end of the day, and you spend so much time dealing with them, uh, and you tell them the same, and you believe, and in personal injury, when they look at the end, when you settle their case, or you win their case, they finally look at you like, I believe you're the real deal. But up to that point, they're always doubting you. And so you get that look, and I know the look. It's a very they look at you, and they acknowledge what you've done for them. But uh, I just couldn't go back to a situation where I'm giving everything all the time to business, and I'm not balancing that out with what's needed at home. I began to learn that even when I went on my own, and before my wife's illness, but particularly now, I still am concerned that would happen again. I'd fall back into that position again, and then I regret it for the rest of my life if I did that and was not there for her when she needed me.
Yeah. Do you feel that some of that for you is that a workaholic type of thing, or you framed it more as a depression thing? And I'm asking because I feel like for myself, I can fall very easily into workaholic mode.
Yep.
And for the first phase, I launched my firm about 2 years ago.
Right.
And from the outset until fairly recently, my mindset was, oh, I'm just going to keep it small, just me. Don't want it to grow. And over
Right.
time, and my husband laughed at me at the time because he knows me.
Right. Not going to happen. Right.
And I then the firm was growing, and every month is different. So I'd have some months where I'd realize, oh my God, this is too much for me to handle. It's I can do it, but it's not good for me. I'm way beyond maxed out. And then I'd have other months where I'd be like, oh, this is totally manageable. And so because of the months that were manageable and I wasn't overloaded, I would think, well, I'm okay, so maybe I don't need to hire because I have some months where I'm okay. But now I more recently acknowledged, oh, the firm is growing, whether not that I would want it to not, but I wasn't putting active effort into it. And once I acknowledged, oh, okay, I think growing is fun. Let's do that. I was able to realize that what was holding me back before, or part of it, was a fear of my version of what you were saying. It was a fear of I'm it's very easy for me to fall into workaholic mode. There's a reason I started the Wellness Esquire. It's because it's not natural for me to take care of myself.
Right.
It doesn't come naturally to me. And so I had this fear of, but if things grow, if I get more and more clients and I don't have the framework and the help and all the things, I won't be okay. And finally, I had a shift where I realized the firm is growing anyways. I'm already not always okay. I just need help. Let's see what getting help looks like, and then what everything can sort of turn into from there. But it was a really critical learning sort of moment for me to acknowledge, oh, so much of like not wanting to grow was a fear of me not handling it well.
Does that have something to do with delegating as well, or just being workaholic? Is it a fear of delegation?
Not a fear of delegation, just I think a lot of experience with it going really well. And so it's sort of a mix of how do I learn to delegate and understand, we talked about perfectionism before. So learning what needs to be done my way, what doesn't need to be done my way, which is frankly a lot.
Right.
And what's really most important, and how do we get the quality and the relationships and all of that stuff to go really well, and to allow, so how do I grow this thing in a way that feels good and authentic for me and what I really want, and to figure out the right people to have along with me who get what I'm going for. And so it was less about I don't want to delegate. It was a desperation actually to delegate, with a struggle of how do I find the right people to do that and to help me learn how to do that. It was much more of it's just really hard for me to stop. And because everything I do is something that's meaningful to me and really important for me and fun, which can also then make it even harder to stop because it's all mine and I want to do it. So then
Right.
when do you pause?
Right. Well, workaholic and depression. I don't know if they're just other sides of the same coin. I don't know if they are, but I think that being too much of a workaholic is not a positive thing, and I think that, but it's a little bit different. It's a depression. I feel like I absolutely can't help the depression when it comes on, and it's like something that yeah, I just have to slug through. Whereas being a workaholic, I do feel that I can, because I had that mentality for the longest time. I feel that I could slow that down if I want to, but it's still a negative thing, but not in a way that I can't control it. The depression, it's hard to control.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just because it's just like I felt you feel it coming on, and wife asks you, "You're going to be okay tomorrow," and you want to say yes, but you know the answer is no. Like you feel there comes a time where you know it's the depression is going to lift, and you feel it inside, but um, you know when it's not going to lift, and nobody wants to hear that it's not going to lift.
Can I
Nobody
ask
wants to hear, yeah,
about that? Because I don't have depression, so I have to, learn from others of what is it like. So you just said, if your wife asks you, are you going to be okay tomorrow? And the answer is no.
yep.
And it seems like you feel solid that the answer is no, as opposed to, I don't know. Is that right?
I think the answer would be are you going to be okay tomorrow? Are you going to be better tomorrow? Are you going to be in your office all day tomorrow? As opposed to taking breaks or extended breaks. I would know the answer is no a day in advance, because I could still feel that there's still a depression that's behind it all, and it's not going to lift. Although I've found myself in many instances since my wife's illness, so I've gone to a number of conferences, and these conferences have been very positive because puts me in front of people, and I have to be at my best in front of the people. Nobody wants to know of anything relating to depression or of your wife's illness or anything like that. And I was able to do that on every occasion without problem, even certain situations where I was waiting for the result of my wife's scan to come back the next day. I remember how I said, I've got to be out there, and I've got to be at my best, despite like the times where I wouldn't let the depression stop me, and other times where I did let it stop me. So like past few days, as I've pointed out, I did let it stop me. But when I had to not let it stop me, being at conferences and all that, or uh, doing work for clients that had to be done by a certain time, I would find a way to fight through it and not let it stop me. It seems like when there's less going on, there's less urgent things going on, that's when I let the depression get in the way and dictate what, make me down, make me not want to get out of bed, make me not want to do things to advance my career. Always being occupied is always a solution. Having your mind on other things, it helps in almost every instance. It's just that if I fall into that depression, even if I have things in my mind, it's hard to get out of it once you're in it. It's best to try to prevent yourself from getting into it. I didn't have a clue that it would hit me in the past week. wasn't thinking about that whatsoever.
Sure. Well, it seems also like extra exhausting. It sounds, what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you at least sometimes kind of know that some of the tools to help you get out of it, and that's things like go put yourself in a room with a bunch of people where you have to sort of, maybe it's like you have to put on a show and you have to make yourself operate in XYZ fashion for some reason,
Yep.
but that's also exhausting. So if you don't have the urgency of the client thing due tomorrow or the conference that's happening tonight or something else, if there's not something so time critical, um, it's easy to just say,
Yeah.
it's too exhausting to get myself out of this, so I'll just let it linger. And I don't mean that in a fault sort of way, but
Yeah,
no,
well, it is there's definitely something, I definitely have that tendency to depression, and it's there. And what can I say? Yesterday, I wanted to go to a networking event. I hadn't paid for it. It was just a kind of we pay at the door kind of thing, and I wanted to go. I really did, but I just couldn't get myself together to go. I just couldn't, um, and so I didn't go. Do I regret it? Yeah, I regret it. I wanted to go, but next week there's another networking event, and hopefully I'll be okay to go to that networking event, and
tell me when it is, and I'll send you a message and
I think it's the 31st, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and I knew about today, and I wanted to be on for today. I thought it'd be particularly good coming back from vacation, also having experienced this depression of the past several days, to talk about that. I wanted to have the discussion. It's just whereas I didn't feel like I needed to mingle yesterday, and I just didn't need to do it. I said no to it. Nobody cares anyway. Whether you show up or you don't, and it's just your own thing. I didn't tell anybody I was going to show up. It would have been just me going, but I just didn't have it in me to go and beat traffic or take the train. Uh, Yesterday the depression had the upper hand on me, and that was just the way it was. Today, not so much.
fantastic. Well, I'm glad today seems like it's a, maybe I'll call it an easier day. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yes,
Good.
it's an easier day. Exactly. Uh,
Is there anything else that you want to share about your law journey, about your life experience, around the way you're integrating life and work and taking care of yourself and your family, or anything else we haven't touched on?
well, I think it pretty much said almost all the I could think of, is and saying I think it's really important to take care of yourself early on in your legal journey, to so that you don't run up against uh, more problems in the end. I think that uh, had I not been such a workaholic early on, I think it would have protected me. Even though the two things are not related, would have protected me from kind of the long depressions that I experienced with in relation to my wife's illness, and that I still may experience. Like, I can't tell you right now. I'm not going to experience that again, because next scan comes, and if it's a scan that is not good news, I've told myself 1,000 times I'll work through it, but I don't know for sure. So it's best to develop best habits early on. Um, Being a workaholic, you know, it's good in a way. You feel so good when you're working, and you feel like you can outwork anybody. And that's such a positive quality, but at the end, it isn't, because you have to sacrifice a lot of things to be able to sustain that. And so I would just say even keel, and being on do things moderately is from the beginning is the best as much as you can possibly do it. I remember I worked at a law firm earlier on in my career. They called it a lifestyle law firm, but I was the one working the most hours. I was like, what is this? It's like, I mean, it's a lifestyle firm. I'm here where I worked the most hours for years straight.
Your office.
I don't know. It's like I didn't take advantage of that. Who says we're a lifestyle firm? Well, they said it, and I didn't. I was totally not like that. So it prepared me well for my future career. Then, as a plaintiff personal injury lawyer, to be a workaholic, and now I'm only realizing after all this time, and maybe I should have taken them up on that lifestyle offer. Anyway,
thank you so much for sharing all that you did. So many lawyers are going through something, and many of us have been either explicitly or told or implicitly guided that we're not supposed to talk about the real tough stuff, the real things we're living through, and it just really doesn't help anybody. And I really believe that the more we talk about all this stuff out loud and make it okay to do so and normalize the real tough stuff, the better we're all gonna do, because we don't feel like we have to pretend it's not happening, and we can speak up and get the help that we need, and
right.
telling each other, hey, I'm not okay today, I need a lighter load, or whatever it is. So thank you for being one of the voices that says, yep, life is tough sometimes, and here's how we're getting through it. Some days are harder than others, and that's how it is, and that's okay.
That's right. At the last conference I was at, I was at a conference in California for the first 4 days, and then we went on vacation. I hadn't talked about my wife's illness at all to anybody in all the days, and I had met hundreds of people. But the last person that I spoke to had a personal story that she had gone through breast cancer, and it made me talk about it, and it was good to have the conversation. But it was only one, so I'm still, I'll do write about it on LinkedIn time to time, but it's not something that I actively talk with people, because I think for the most part people don't like to hear bad news. I still believe that, and I'm happy to talk about it with you and people who specifically are open to hearing it, but I still try to keep things as positive as possible in the day to day.
Well, thank you very much, and I think people are going to really benefit from hearing your story.
Thank you very much for taking the time to interview me. I appreciate it, and everything that you do. Really admirable.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thanks for listening. I hope you got a ton of value from this conversation, and that you will check out the links in the description to learn more about the guest and the Wellness Esquire. And I hope you take even just 1 minute to do something for yourself today. Maybe right now, drink more water, say no, call a friend, do something that makes you happy, have a 30-second dance party, find something to make you laugh. Also, be sure to subscribe and send the podcast to a colleague. And if we're not yet connected on LinkedIn, please fix that. I'd love to know you. See you next time.